Alright, so moving on from last class, we're gonna actually set up some logic to play the animation accordingly based on if we're moving or not, so that we can have the attack animation played only on the upper body when we want it to, and when we're standing still, we're doing the full animation, full body. Okay. Back here to our animation, animation BP here. So we have the slots of this ability. That's where we play our abilities. Of course, melee attack is one of the abilities. But this is again when you play that montage, it's gonna overwrite the input like completely, and that's what we're seeing here, right? You know, that's all the animation. The underneath animation is getting overridden unless until the animation is over, right? So we wanted to tell it to only play to partial of the body. Okay. To do that, I can use a node called LayerBlendPerBone. So if I right click here and say LayerBlendPerBone, I can tell from which bone I want to play one animation and from which bone I want to play the other animation. Or I can even be really specific on the weighting for every individual bone I have to play either one of them or the other, or have a blending between those two, like 50% base pose and 50% at the blend pose 0. Okay. Now I do have a problem. If I want to connect this guy over here and connect my locomotion over here so that I can blend those two, I can't, because when I make connection, I break the other connection. That's just the way animation blueprint works. In this case, I can alt-click to break my connection. What I need to do is actually drag out from there and create a cache. Okay, so you just drag out from here and type in cache, C-A-C-H-E, and you save cache pose. You can name this pose. But in this case, I'm going to say ability. Okay. And this one, drag this guy out and say this is gonna be, I can cache this one if I wanted to. So this is gonna be the local motion. I can call this guy local motion. Okay. And to use those cache results, basically the cache is basically a mirror of what this guy is having. So whatever this guy is doing, this cache is going to be the same thing. I can use the cache by just typing the name of the cache I named it. So this is going to be the local motion. I'm using the local motion cache and connect it to the slot ability. Okay, compile and save that. Anyway, so now we have two caches, a local motion cache and a ability cache. Okay, the local motion cache again is the locomotion movement. So if we use the locomotion cache right here, we will have whatever we have earlier before we have the attack. If we use the ability, that's whatever we're having actually at the end of last class, because that's including the slot ability. I want to blend those two together with this node. So in that case, I'm going to say locomotion is going to be the base pose. And the ability, ability, or to use cache pose ability, right? This is going to be the one we blend on top. We're blending the original locomotion with the ability, which has a slot in between. All right, and that result goes to the final result. And I want the ability, the attack ability, to happen only on the upper body. So what I do here is, underneath the layer setup, and go to the first layer, I'm going to say, add a new branch filter. Okay, open that. What I'm going to do here is, from one of the bones, I'm going to start to blend or give the weighting from 0 all the way up to 1. If we zoom in here and go to character and show the bone names, you can see that's all the bone names. If you really get into it, you can see there's one bone called span 01 here. That's going to be the bone I use. Okay. You have to type in exactly the same name, compile and save. Okay. So what that setup basically means is that from span 0, 1 and all the child joints. If you're familiar with rigging, you know the child joint, which is the the lower hierarchy. If you look at the oops, back here, if you look at the bones, show all the hierarchy, and let's disable the display of the name. You can see it's a hierarchy. You have the root joints, and you have the pelvis, the spines, and you can see for every joint you have like a arrow here. The joint on the end of the arrow is the child, and the joint on the beginning of that arrow is the parent. So you have this parenting hierarchy here. And basically what this means is from span 0, 1 and all the child of span 0, 1, it's gonna give the weighting, the full weighting to blend post 0, because this is actually blend post 0. Okay. If you add one more here, you can see you have blend post 1. That's this one set up, but we only need one for now, so I can right click and remove that pin. Okay, compile and save this. Anyway, so basically we're telling blend post 0 by setting up one of the branch filters in 0, and which what we're saying is first from span 0, 1 and above, and every child joint of the span 0, 1, you will have a full weighting. Okay, the ability will play on those joints. The base pose will be playing on the other joints, basically the lower body. Okay, let's actually see that in action. Go ahead and play. You can see now when I play, I'm playing this. Right. Okay, so this is not very good because the blending setting here. If you take a look at the blend setting, we're using the local space. So that it's relative to the parent. What we want to do is actually relative to the word, which is actually this check box here, mesh space rotation blend. Basically have the absolute word position of the animation instead of relative to the parent. Go ahead and play it again. You can see now we're playing the upper body with the attack, and the lower body is not playing the attack. So basically that's what this is, but I'm not quite like the result I'm getting. You can see it's almost like twisting the torso, like the waist, like crazy. Then it's doing that weird twisting thing in the middle. It's not really blending well. So here, instead of saying, okay, we're just gonna do a really harsh blend, I'm gonna tell it to gradually blend to 1, and that's what this blend depth is. If I change that to something like 4, what this does is when you play, it's gonna have the blending starting from span 0, 1 and gradually reaches to a weighting of 1 in the next 4 hierarchies. Now if I go ahead and play, you can see it's smoother, right? It's better. Okay, but still this is not super perfect, because if she's doing this 180 degrees, actually 360 degree spin, the body should actually spin with it, right? That's not really good here. So what we want to do is actually we want to do to be more specific down on when we want that blending to happen, which is when she's doing the spinning part. I do want to play the full body animation, and when she finishes the spinning and doing the landing part, that's when I wanted to actually stop doing only the upper body. Sorry, stop doing the full body, but doing only the upper body attack animation, but keep the lower body playing the running animation. Okay, so this is not quite there yet, but it's something, right? It's something. Just to explain a little bit more about the animation blueprint, you can actually add new branch filters if you wanted to do that. Like we have another filter. We can start with a different bone. Like, for example, if I want this arm to not play or let's actually do this arm because it's easier to see. Okay. Go to bone and bone names. You can see I have this, if I can move really slowly, you can see the clavicle R, right? If I type in clavicle R here, and I type in a negative value, like negative 1 in this case. Okay, what this does is from clavicle R, and in the next joint, it's going to actually eliminate the weighting, subtract the weighting to the negative value, towards 0. Okay, so that's basically telling it, okay, from span 0, 1, first do this filter. from span 01 all the way to other joints that is beneath span 01, we're going to make them forwarding, right, in the next 4 hierarchies. This one will be done first, and then move on to the next one. Then they're going to change it from clavicle R, which is this guy, to all the child joints. It's going to go back to 0. Okay, so it's like a for loop actually in the source code. It goes through this one's operation and goes through this one. So that means that this arm will actually play the locomotion instead of playing the ability on the right arm, but the body will still do the spinning. Let's take a look at that. You can see now it's doing that, right? So yeah, you can be really specific and tell every individual joint what they're doing in its setup. It's a really powerful node, and you can create multiple filters to define a really complicated blending. But for now, I want to explain a little bit more on how this works. I'm gonna delete this guy. I don't really need that. So go back here, and because our tutorial is getting a little bit long, we're gonna stop here. And in the next tutorial, I want to show you some more refined way to tell when do we want the blending to happen, when do we want to play the full body, and when do we want to play only the upper body. Okay, so see you next time.